Hello guys, welcome back to our channel. Today, we are going to start our new horror story. If you like our old story, then don't forget to like and subscribe. So let's start without any further delay. The wheels of the dusty old Jeep crunched over loose gravel as it turned the final bend on the narrow mountain road. Beyond the hill, nestled between dense, ancient forests and forgotten hills, lay Devgarh, a village so hidden it hadn't appeared on any map Aarav had found online. Aarav Sharma, 24, leaned forward in his seat, squinting through the cracked windshield. He wasn't a tourist, nor a spiritual seeker. He was a researcher, a skeptic of all things paranormal. He had grown up in Delhi, studied anthropology, and was now gathering folk tales from rural India for his thesis, Unseen Beliefs, Supernatural Narratives in Isolated Communities. He didn't believe in spirits. He believed in stories. The Jeep came to a stop at a moss-covered milestone that simply read, Devgargh, population, unknown. The driver, an old man named Chotu, didn't speak a word as he unloaded Aarav's bags. His eyes remained fixed on the ground. When Aarav tried to tip him, Chotu backed away quickly, muttering a prayer under his breath before speeding off, leaving a trail of dust behind. Aarav stood alone on the dirt path, looking up at the small village. Devgargh was quiet. Unnaturally so. Stone houses sat in crooked rows, their walls discolored with age. Smoke curled from a few chimneys. A handful of villagers watched him from doorways but said nothing. There were no children laughing. No animals barking, just the constant low rustle of the forest wind. As he walked further into the village, an old woman appeared from one of the homes. She was barefoot, her gray hair tied tightly, and her eyes held a deep caution. You shouldn't have come here, she said, flatly. Aarav stopped. I'm just a researcher. I contacted the village head, he's dead. Aarav frowned. Since when? 3 days ago, she said. Buried yesterday. Something in her tone made him uneasy. How did he die? She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward a house on the edge of the village. Stay there. Don't go out after sundown. And don't follow the drums. Drums? But the woman had already turned away, disappearing behind a wooden door that creaked shut like a coffin lid. That evening, the sun dipped below the hills far too quickly. Aarav barely had time to set up his recording equipment and journal. The house he was given was basic, no electricity, a cot, and a kerosene lamp. He lit it and sat by the window, writing his observations. Just as he finished writing, he heard it, drumming, distant, muffled, rhythmic, as if someone were playing a tribal beat deep in the forest. Aarav stepped outside into the cool night air. The village was dark. No lamps. No fires. Every window shut tight, but the drums continued. Slow. Hypnotic, they came from beyond the village, past the fields, into the trees, and then, another sound. Like chanting. Faint and wordless, his logical mind insisted it was just some village ritual, but another part of him, something primitive, whispered that this was no ritual for the living. As the night deepened, Aarav returned inside, bolting the wooden door. The drumming echoed until well past midnight, but just before it stopped, Aarav heard footsteps outside his window, slow. Barefoot, and then, a soft, childlike voice whispering from the darkness, you can't leave now. You've heard it too. Aarav barely slept. He lay frozen on the thin cot, heart thudding against his ribs, every creak of wood and gust of wind amplified by the oppressive silence that blanketed the house. He kept the kerosene lamp burning until dawn. By morning, the village was back to its eerie quiet normal. Birds chirped in the trees, and a couple of women were drawing water from a well, speaking in hushed tones. The night felt like a fever dream, but the faint footprints outside his window, still visible in the soft mud, proved it hadn't been. He approached one of the women. "Did you hear the drums last night?" She looked up sharply. "We do not speak of them." "Why not? Is it a festival? A ritual?" She dropped her gaze and whispered, "The drums are a warning. They mean the hollow is stirring." Before he could ask more, the village priest interrupted. The priest, Pandit Mahipal, was a gaunt, middle-aged man dressed in simple white cotton. He invited Aarav to the temple, a crumbling structure at the center of Devgargh, built with black stone and surrounded by dying trees. "You came for stories," he said, sitting Aarav down near the sanctum. "But some stories are better left buried." Aarav pressed record on his audio device. The priest stared into the distance and began, "Long ago, Devgargh was not a village, but a fortress. Built on a hollow mound, beneath which something ancient sleeps. Not a demon, nor a god, something worse. A being that feeds on belief. The more people feared it, the stronger it became." He paused. "The people who lived here learned to keep it asleep by silence. No prayers. No festivals. No music. No drums." "Then why are there drums now?" Aarav asked. "Because someone, or something, is trying to wake it." The forgotten diary. That afternoon, Aarav explored the late village headman's house, hoping to find any written records. The house was dim and smelled of dried herbs. Papers were scattered across a desk. One item caught his eye, a leather-bound journal, cracked with age. "The drums returned 2 weeks ago. We tried to stay silent, to hide. But 3 children vanished. The forest took them. We buried the girl who came back. She had no eyes. We sealed the southern path. But it calls to us still. Beneath the well." Aarav's hand trembled as he turned the page. The final note was scrawled, hurriedly, "If anyone reads this, don't look into the well. The wind speaks." That night, the wind picked up violently, the trees howled. The windows shook, the drums returned, louder, closer, and once again, the whispers came. But this time, they weren't outside, they were inside the house. From the corner of the room, just behind the flickering shadows of the lamp, Aarav heard. He opened it. "The path is no longer sealed. We're waiting." Beneath. Suddenly, the lamp went out, darkness swallowed the room, and in the pitch black, something brushed past him, cold and wet, like fingers dragged from a muddy grave. By morning, the air in Devgarh felt heavier. Like the village was breathing, slowly, with each gust of wind through the trees. Aarav hadn't slept. The whispers had faded at dawn, but not the feeling of being watched. He checked his audio recorder, static. No trace of the whispers. No evidence of the thing that brushed against him, but one line from the village headman's journal echoed in his mind, "The path is no longer sealed." Beneath the well. Ignoring the priest's warnings, Aarav walked to the old village well. It sat unused, covered by a thick stone slab, its edges ringed with dried red powder, vermilion, used in rituals. Something about it pulled him. A vibration beneath his feet. Subtle but persistent. Like the earth itself was trying to speak, he bent down, placing his hand on the stone cover. Cold. Too cold. Just as he stood, a sharp voice cut through the air. "Don't touch that." It was the old woman from earlier, the one who warned him on his first day. She was holding a sickle in one hand and beads in the other. "The temple is no longer safe. That well hasn't been opened in 50 years. And now it hums again." Aarav stepped back. "You know what's down there, don't you?" Her lips trembled, as if the truth burned her mouth. Finally, she said, "A god with no name. A thing fed by fear. It was buried by our ancestors after the blood festival. The temple marks the first entrance." She looked him dead in the eyes. "You want answers? Go to the buried temple past the southern edge. But if you enter, it'll know you." The southern path was overgrown, wild with thorn bushes and twisted trees. No villagers ever walked it. Even birds avoided the air above. Aarav moved slowly, machete in hand, cutting through the brush. The forest was unnaturally quiet. No insects. No rustle. Just silence. Then, he saw it, a stone arch, nearly hidden by vines. Symbols etched along its frame. Below it, ancient steps led downward into darkness. The forgotten temple. The air shifted the moment Aarav stepped in. Damp, choking, metallic. The deeper he walked, the more time seemed to distort. His flashlight flickered constantly. Carvings lined the walls. Human figures bowing to a towering, formless shape, not a god. But something more monstrous, with too many limbs and hollow eyes. At the center of the chamber was a pit. Large. Circular. Ringed by stones smeared with dried blood, and in the pit, a mask, white. Cracked. Shaped like a stretched human face, with no eyes, and a permanent grin carved into it. Aarav knelt, mesmerized. He reached out, a thunderclap split the silence. His flashlight exploded, darkness, then, put it on. A voice. Not whispered. Not spoken. It entered him. Like it knew him, and against his will, his fingers closed around the mask. He brought it to his face. When the mask touched his skin, his mind split open. He saw Devgargh centuries ago, thriving. Celebrating the blood festival. Until they came. Figures from the forest, wearing white masks, chanting, feeding something beneath the earth. He saw villagers burning the masked ones alive, burying the temple, sealing the well. And the creature they tried to contain, bound in stone and ritual. Then, Aarav saw himself, standing at the mouth of the pit. A white mask on his face. Eyes black. Smiling, "You are the key," the voice said, "You are of our blood." Aarav woke outside the temple. The mask was gone, his shirt was stained with red soil, and from within the trees behind him, drums began to beat again, fast this time, louder. Aarav stumbled back into Devgargh just before dusk. He looked like he had crawled from a grave, his clothes torn, eyes bloodshot, and skin covered in fine red dust. Villagers backed away as he passed. Mothers clutched their children. Even the stray dogs avoided him. He reached his hut and collapsed onto the cot, gasping for breath, replaying what he had seen, the masked cult, the sacrifice, the pit, and that voice. The mask had vanished, but its imprint remained. He could still feel it on his skin, and something else. He was no longer alone inside his own mind. Aarav dreamed and read. He stood in the middle of Devgarh, but it was older, bloodier. Fires burned in every corner, and masked figures danced in circles around a massive hole in the ground. Their limbs moved unnaturally, like marionettes pulled by invisible strings. From the pit, black smoke rose like a serpent. A voice echoed above the drums. He watches. He waits. The blood has begun to stir. Aarav turned to run, but he turned into himself, another version of him, wearing the mask, grinning. You can't run from what's buried in your blood. A sharp knock at the door jerked Aarav awake. Standing there was a man he hadn't seen before, in his 40s, lean, sunburnt skin, wearing a dark green shawl. His eyes were unsettling. One was normal. The other was cloudy white. You went into the temple, he said, not asking, stating, I saw it in the fire. It's starting again. Who are you? They call me Banu, the fire reader. I see what others bury. The curse runs in bloodlines. It's in you now. You've breathed it in. Banu reached into his satchel and pulled out a scroll, hand-drawn, ancient. He unrolled it on Aarav's table. It showed the outline of Devgarh, the well, and something else beneath it, a spiral, descending chambers deep underground. At the center was a word scrawled in red ink, Netramukh. The one who watches, Banu whispered. He doesn't see with eyes. He sees through memory, fear, and blood. And you woke him. Banu lit incense and spoke low. Long ago, there was a being, not God, not ghost, but a thing born before death itself. A hunger made from forgotten worship. It was sealed in the hollow after it possessed an entire generation of Devgarh's children, turning them against their families. The last surviving priest gave his life to lock the final door. But each time someone hears the drums or sees the mask, the door cracks a little more. And now, it has cracked. Aarav asked, then why me? Banu stared at him with that white eye, because your blood remembers. Someone in your line was part of the masked ones. You came to study folklore, but Devgarh brought you back to finish what they started. Either you seal it again, or it will climb through you. That night, Aarav didn't sleep. The drumming returned at exactly midnight, but this time, it wasn't distant, it was right outside his door. He pressed himself against the wall, barely breathing. From the crack beneath the door, he saw bare feet. Pale, wet with red mud, and then, a child's voice, again, this time clearer. You wore the mask, Aarav. Now we can see through your eyes. The door creaked. The lock clicked, but when Aarav pulled it open, no one was there, just footprints in a spiral, drawn in blood, leading toward the well. Aarav followed the trail of blood through the silent village, each footprint more defined than the last, as if something freshly awakened had walked out of the hollow and into his world. The path ended at the well. The vermilion line once sealing it had been broken. Smeared, the heavy stone slab had moved, not much, just a few inches, but enough to let a whisper slip through, and in that whisper was his name, Aarav. Banu found him standing at the well just before dawn. You're close to the breach, the fire reader said. closer than anyone since the old priest. It knows you now. It will try to use you. Aarav turned to him, desperate. Can we stop it? Banu nodded grimly. There's a ritual. One last tried during the blood festival, generations ago. But it requires three things: blood from its line, the bones of its first vessel, and a willing sacrifice. Aarav's voice cracked. Blood from its line. Banu placed a hand on Aarav's shoulder. You. Back at the hut, Banu showed Aarav a collection of old records. Pages of temple documents that had been smuggled out before the final sealing. In one record, Aarav found a name, Aarav Sharma, initiate of the third mask, his grandfather. Aarav stumbled back. He remembered stories from his childhood, how Aarav had left his village young and never returned, how he had nightmares, spoke in riddles, and warned Aarav to never seek your roots in the ground. He was one of them, Banu said. He escaped the hollow, but it never left him. And now, it's come for you. Aarav clenched his fists. What about the bones of the first vessel? Banu's eyes turned cold. They're in the temple ruins. And you'll have to go back. By twilight, Aarav stood once more at the entrance of the forgotten temple. The forest felt even more dead than before. As if it had exhaled its last breath, this time, he went deeper, past the altar. Past the pit, into a narrow tunnel carved into the earth. Walls tight. Air choking, at the end, a chamber. The walls were lined with masks. Hundreds. All broken. In the center lay a skeleton, dressed in tattered red cloth. The skull bore a symbol carved into the forehead, a spiral within an eye. Aarav reached for it, and the walls screamed, dozens of voices. Men. Women. Children, we never left. We live in the blood. You will wear the final mask. When Aarav emerged, he was bleeding from his nose, ears ringing, chest burning. In his hands were the fragile bones of the hollow's first vessel, wrapped in cloth. But there was something else, a scar now etched into his chest, over his heart, the spiral. The eye, burned into his skin, he collapsed, and in his half-conscious state, the mask appeared in his dream again, floating, turning, watching. You're nearly ready, it whispered, the hollow will breathe through you. Aarav awoke to the scent of burning herbs and ash. He was inside Banu's hut, the fire reader chanting softly over him, painting protective sigils across the floor. The bones were laid carefully near the fire, wrapped in red cloth. Aarav sat up slowly, his chest still throbbing with the fresh mark, the spiralized scar now a pulsing, living brand. It's begun, Banu said. You've passed into its notice. There's no more hiding. If you delay, it will crawl out of the hollow, into you. Into Devgargh. Into everything. Aarav asked the question he had been avoiding, what happens if we fail? Banu's eyes went distant, then the mask spreads. It will find wearers. Not believers. Just flesh. The children first. Then the lost. Then the world. The ritual had to be performed at the well, the thinnest point between the hollow and the surface, where the breach had begun. They gathered the components, the bones of the first vessel, Aarav's blood, marked by heritage and by the hollow, a burning herb mixture Banu had hidden for years, ash root, fever vine, and red sage, meant to suppress spiritual awakening. they had one night to perform it, midnight, when the drums would be loudest. One chance, as the sun vanished, the villagers locked themselves in. Banu and Aarav arrived at the well. The stone slab was fully pushed aside now, revealing a hole so black it seemed to eat the light. The ritual circle was drawn around it. The bones placed within. Aarav stood at the center, shirtless, mark exposed. Banu began the chant. Smoke rose. The drums began in the trees. Fast, desperate. Then, the wind stopped completely, and the well began to glow, a slow, pulsing red light from beneath. Aarav felt his spine snap straight. His head jerked back. The voice returned, "Yes. Finally. We open through you." His mouth opened, but not his words. "I am the Watcher." The door. The mask. Banu screamed, "Fight it. It's taking your breath. Speak your name. Speak your blood." Aarav forced himself to move. He bit down on his thumb, drew blood, and let it drip onto the bones. The wind slammed back in. The circle of ash caught flame, and from the well, something began to rise. First, fingers, too many, then a mask, floating above a swirling cloud of smoke. It had no eyes, just the spiral. And a grin carved deep into the bone-white surface. "We are hollow. We see through him." It began to pull itself up, bone by bone, hand by hand. Aarav screamed, "I am not your vessel. I am not your blood. I am the end of you." With the last of his strength, he picked up the burning herb bundle and thrust it into the well. The fire exploded, not upward, but down. A howl pierced the air. The sky shook. The trees bent inward. The mask cracked. No. Banu threw the final chant, "Return to beneath. May your eye close. May your spiral collapse." The ground split, the mask shattered, and the well swallowed itself whole. Aarav awoke 2 days later. The well was gone, Banu was gone, only ash remained at the ritual site. The village had changed. Not happier, but lighter. As if something had stopped breathing over it, Aarav left Devgargh quietly, carrying only the scar on his chest and the final page of Banu's scroll. It read, "The mask sleeps again. But it is never gone. It waits in blood, in memory, in silence." That's enough for today, guys. I hope you like our story. We meet in a new horror story. Until you like and subscribe to our channel.